That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about
Fight or Flight,
the directorial debut of James Madigan, which Vertical Entertainment is releasing in the U.S. theatrically May 9th, 2025.
Directorial debut. What is Fight or Flight about? A mercenary takes on the job of tracking down a target on a plane, but must protect her when they're surrounded by people trying to kill both of them.
It's funny that mercenary is in the description because the dialogue takes pains to tell us that he's not or wasn't.
Well, who knows who wrote that IMDb premise. What is your pull quote?
Sans a chainsaw tossed around like a dodgeball, there's not a single original idea in Fight or Flight, which may not trigger any kind of palpable stress response, but it does allow Josh Hartnett carte blanche as a rugged, charming soldier of fortune.
Mine. Josh Hartnett shines in this gonzo B action film.
It definitely is a B film.
I enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it's enjoyable if utterly inconsequential.
The story. Josh Hartnett plays an ex-Secret Service agent who's been blacklisted because once when he was protecting some sort of dignitary, he got in trouble for trying to stop this dignitary from abusing an underage sex worker. And unfortunately for him, that dignitary's brother is the deputy director of the CIA. So Josh Hartnett's passport was taken away. He was put on the no-fly list. So we find Josh Hartnett in Bangkok as this alcoholic taxi driver. Okay, so separate from that, on this day, there's some agency which initially we think would be like a federal agency, but there is some nefarious character called a ghost who they're trying to find. And we see on surveillance that this person's body is like blurred out. So this person, the ghost, clearly has access to a lot of high-tech stuff. But they find out that the ghost is boarding a flight in Bangkok
To San Francisco.
So they're like, okay, well, who can we get to stop the ghost? Well, we don't have, like, our closest team is in Shanghai, I think, or somewhere.
Singapore?
Singapore. So that's when the leader of this group goes, oh, I know someone. And she calls Josh Hartnett and convinces him that if you do this job for me, I'll reinstate your flight privileges and get you your passport back. So he says, okay. He gets on the plane and things just go left. Like for the next hour and some change, like the premise reads, everyone on the plane is looking for the ghost. And Josh Hartnett figures out who the ghost is very quickly. It's this lady who's pretending to be a flight attendant.
Isha, played by Charithra Chandran from Bridgerton.
And he ends up trying to protect her because he's told by the person who hired him that he needs to bring her in alive. So he's trying to stop these people from killing her. But eventually we learn that she's not nefarious. She's actually created some technology that can break into any encrypted sort of technology or something vague. But her mission is to put an end to child sex trafficking and child slave labor. So that's when Josh Hartnett realizes that he really needs to protect her. So in the very end, because the whole plan is that when that flight lands in San Francisco, the people who hired Josh Hartnett are going to take that technology. And we already learned that they're trying to use that to get money. So these people who hired Josh Hartnett are not good people.
No. And might, once you pull that thread, we might find a lot of other people are complicit in these kind of scenarios.
But the final gag is this ghost lady is smarter than they thought because she actually has that plane redirected somewhere else very far away from San Francisco. And so the final scene is that Josh Hartnett is convalescing in this hospital that looks like it's in a war-torn area. And then all of a sudden, fighting breaks out and the ghost tells Josh Hartnett, we have more work to do. So maybe there'll be a second installment. But yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun.
It is fun, but again, are you going to remember a week from now half of anything about this narrative, which I reminded me of so many other things from again, I liked Fight or Flight better than this film, but Wolves came to mind with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, where the ability to call some miraculous cleaner at the last minute to come take care of everything. And then, of course, we assume, as you said, that they're a federal agency, but they're not. Katherine, played by Katee Sackhoff, and Aaron, played by Julian Kostov, who was just in the latest season of White Lotus. Their banter, I found, like everything else feels like it could have been kicked up a notch to match the level of violence that's happening on the plane, because it feels like all the effort went into the choreographed violence, which sometimes feels quite impressive.
I thought it felt silly, like almost borderline campy.
Silly, but it feels like, of course, Bullet Train came to mind, and I think Josh Hartnett's a lot more charming than Brad Pitt is in that film. But that film was silly. I think this works, the silliness in this works better.
Sure. So, first off, just going through, it's very, very violent. So I thought I'd go through some of the violent moments that stuck out to me. The first kill we see on the plane is there is someone who's acting as a air marshal, and they are trying to break into the bathroom that Josh Hartnett is in. Mm-hmm. And he takes that person and shoves them into the sprinkler in the ceiling. So the person's dangling from the ceiling because the sprinkler's been jabbed into their cranium. I thought that was very violent.
That wasn't an air marshal. That was another...
that was the passenger named Chayenne who had drugged Josh Hartnett, because he's also a merc on the plane trying to get the ghost.
Because it's also very John Wick. Everybody, all of these criminals that are trying to get the ghost have gotten this message that she's, like in John Wick lingo, excommunicado.
Also, when Chayenne, that first kill, tries to drug Josh Hartnett, he recognizes that I've been drugged. But, it's made to seem like he is an utter alcoholic. And he tells Chayenne, you can't pickle a pickle. Then we see Josh Hartnett kill a lady by jamming a champagne flute into her eye. Mm-hmm. That was pretty gruesome. We see another character get harpooned.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that more attention to detail was spent on the kills.
There's a woman on the plane who has some pretty crazy blue eye contacts. Mm-hmm. And Josh Hartnett ends up killing her by smashing her in the head with a hatchet. Then we get a moment, the pilots of the plane are locked in the cockpit. And for some reason, they opened the door for these two Mormon guys. I was very confused by that scene. I didn't understand if the Mormon guys were mercenaries or they were just scared. But they ended up killing one of the pilots by shooting him in the eye with a flare gun.
Were they Mormon?
They were holding Bibles and they were wearing white with little badges.
Well, they'd have the Book of Mormon then. They wouldn't have the Bible.
Well, it was some sort of text. I don't know what it was, but they looked to me like missionaries, so let's not say Mormons.
I agree, but yeah, they are able to get into the cockpit for a ridiculous reason and then kind of accidentally kill the pilots.
Then there's this, it's in the trailer that they get a hold of a chainsaw, which is not totally ridiculous because we see in the cargo bay that there is a chainsaw that's been packaged up very well, but because of all the shuffling around, it's fallen out. But then, of course, bringing it out into the cockpit. And at one point, we see Josh Hartnett slicing and dicing everyone. And then he throws it at someone and kills them. And you hear in the background someone saying, everything's okay. I thought it was funny.
Again, yes, it has some humorous touches. Chainsaws are very heavy. You don't just throw them.
Okay, the lady running this organization, which turns out to be some sort of I think it's some tech security firm.
We see an advertisement when they step outside about, let us secure your data.
Yeah, it's called Blue Hype. So I think it's a data security company. But the lady running it, her name's Katherine. Mm-hmm. She's going on my worst hair list. But for similar reasons too, we reviewed a movie called Clock, I think, with Melora Hardin. Mm-hmm. And it also, for the same reason, her hair is just so overly complicated for the job. For what she's doing, her character is also seems to be high stressed.
She takes CBD.
We see her taking CBD oil. We see her doing breathing exercises to calm down. It just seems kind of crazy that someone like her would have this very complicated hairdo in a time like this. But
I mean, it looks like a stiff wind would kind of throw that all out of place as well.
So on the plane, we see that most of the passengers on there are people looking to capture the ghost. But then at a point, they all have Josh Hartnett's picture on their phone. And so Katherine runs this data security company, but underneath her is Alexi from the White Lotus season 3.
Aaron, Julian Kostov.
And he knew about this technology the ghost had. And so he had sort of orchestrated a lot of the things that are happening because he wanted access to it, because he knew whoever had it, it's worth billions of dollars. And then at a point, his boss, Katherine, confronts him about it. And I knew that's when things were not going to go well, because he goes, well, we can just split it. Like, yeah, sure. No. In the end, she ends up killing him.
I also thought Snakes on a Plane came to mind as well.
Well, even reading the description, I thought of Snakes on a Plane. Right. So Josh Hartnett's character gets beat up pretty bad at a point, and he's been I think he's been stabbed in the abdomen. So when it's time to get back up and fight, he gets a hold of what he thinks is adrenaline. So he does like an injection of adrenaline. But then we find out that it's actually toad venom.
Oh, he just drinks it. He doesn't inject it.
He drinks it. But I thought it was funny because then now he's acting all high, and I thought the visuals looked really cool.
There were cute visuals because the cat eye lady is when he's riding that high that he's killing, and he's seeing sparking lights flashing out of her head, and it's really, he has stabbed her in the head and it's blood gushing. And it seems like almost everybody on this plane that has a ticket is some kind of assassin, but there are other passengers, and I think that it's funny whenever we get to see a civilian on the plane having to react to the carnage.
Well, and also because a lot of them are kind of being casual. Like, this plane has been taken over and there are people being brutally murdered all around you. There's also one flight attendant who I'm assuming is supposed to be gay. Garrett, who I thought was cute.
Huey O'Donnell. Yes, he is in charge of the first class
elite
diamond
whatever
elite bullshit they call all that. Okay. Yes, he's entertaining.
And then in the trailer, you see that someone, of course, pulls out a gun, and it's actually a machine gun that causes one of the windows to shatter, which of course starts sucking people out of the plane. I don't know. I mean, it's also ridiculous, but I think it looked like everyone was having fun. Josh Hartnett looks like he's having fun, so I was having fun. And then the resolve of the ghost telling Josh Hartnett, bad news, we're not done yet, makes me think that maybe there'll be another one, which I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind. If we can have 4 or more John Wicks, we can have another Fight or Flight. I don't know what they would call it, but I'm down for that. I'm also up for a sequel to Trap, really, if Mr. Hartnett's in it, because he's chosen some recent scripts wisely that he excels in.
I think it's pretty impressive for a directorial debut.
Yeah.
What would you give Fight or Flight?
3.
I think it's good. I would give it 3 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.